and a shocking number of homes were destroyed because maximum of all the variables happened on the one day. So we had maximum wind speed, maximum temperature, minimum relative humidity, and maximum fuel burning stock all happened in the one day. And so it was hell on earth that day. And this is real climate change happening already in Australia. And as David Crowley, the professor at Melbourne University, said, we can't say definitely it's climate change, but we can say the dice are loaded.
Right, so now the way they are dealing with it, is there international sort of best practices where Sri Lanka can use for our environmental strategy dealing with climate change? It can be Australia, but it can be other countries with the limited resources we have. Now, as you said, the government needs to take an active role, but how can that happen looking at the countries who caused more damage than us? How are we supposed to learn from their experience in the process of adaptation?
Well, as I was referring to earlier, a really great way is for us to do collaboration in research. So we should encourage the universities and research institutions in Sri Lanka to collaborate more closely with similar-minded researchers and students in countries like Australia. And as I said, there are some very encouraging signs from those countries that they're very interested in this kind of joint research and developing new technologies, new ideas, new ways of doing things. And exchange and interchange of people is a wonderful thing. So we could have students from Australian universities doing their field work in Sri Lanka and vice versa. In fact, I'm just starting to supervise an MPhil student from Curtin University who wants to study climate strategy for Sri Lanka, and he plans to come here next year. So this is the kind of thing we can do, which would be very, very good to do more of, and we could learn from each other. It wouldn't be always at all that Sri Lanka is learning from Australia. There's many things that we can teach them, even about climate matters, about all sorts of stuff.
So, climate strategy for Sri Lanka. So, what are the key components in such a strategy that Sri Lanka is looking into now? Because we know that the Environment Ministry on Environment and the Secretariat for Climate Change, they're doing a lot of work as well. But where are they lacking, and what more should they do? And when you talk about a climate strategy for Sri Lanka, what are the essential components in it?
Well, as far as our scientists here are concerned, I think they're very, very high quality, tremendous, and very committed and dedicated. They need more money. So we need lines of funding for our scientists in Sri Lanka. In fact, many of our best people do good PhDs in universities in advanced countries, come back here. They don't get the opportunity to continue that work here because there's no equipment and so on. So money for research related to climate is a very important priority for us here. The other thing is, I think we could encourage the government to build climate considerations into the fabric of policy right across all portfolios. And some of our own thinkers and scientists have said exactly that. There's one guy here saying policy changes in every sector we need. So it's not like to have a separate Ministry of Climate Matters and Environment, which we do have, and it's good. But it's being able, at the very highest level of government, to have the climate perspective embedded into health policy, into transport policy, into urban development policy, into education policy, into road transport policy, into foreign policy, and so on. Everything should be embedded. And that way we will get the most effective, capable preparedness for the future that we cannot avoid.
What you're saying is it has to be an issue that cut across a diverse range of fields, mainstreaming as opposed to streamlining, I guess.
Yes, exactly.
So
exactly.
On that note, we will go for a final break and we will be back with you soon.
What is the hottest planet of our solar system? What type of air does a spider breathe? How are you most likely to catch trichinosis? The right answer may get you ₹1,000,000. Watch DFCC Minds Now on ITN every Saturday at 9 p.m. Test the limits of your mind. Are you ready for the Million Rupee Challenge?
Seni gidip kıran, yılanı derinden çıkaran. Who the answer to my friend?
She's crazy about her daddy.
We're still together.
9 times again. Hey, just how much?
Welcome to the Hotel California.
Welcome back. We're speaking to Mr. Satis Arnold, and he's also the team leader of the ADB funded project in Education for Knowledge Society project. Tonight, speaking about climate change, he insisted on the importance of the government to look at climate change as an issue that cut across many sectors, that is from infrastructure to road development, ports, ports, all aspects, not only environmental ministry and a secretariat for climate change, but it has to be inbuilt in education to health to all aspects for it to be a comprehensive policy and a climate strategy that will take Sri Lanka to more sustainability. And an interesting point we discussed was also developing new products and new markets and new opportunities around climate change, because that will give us an competitive advantage. So always it is right to look at climate change as a threat, but we can also look at climate change as an engine that drives the economy in terms of exploring new services, new markets related to dealing with climate change, in terms of maybe developing a sort of rain harvesting methods and seeds that resist the temperatures and also the pesticides and things like that. So there's scope for innovation, scope for potential, and scope for making it an economic strategy as opposed to only looking at a threat. On that note, Satis, we were going more on adaptation, but why is it different from mitigation? And I understand that Sri Lanka's contribution to pollution is not that significant with respect to other developed countries, but don't we have a role in mitigation as well?
I think you're quite right. We cannot wash our hands away from mitigation entirely. That wouldn't be the right message to the world. So while our poorest sections of our communities that do not even have basic electricity in their homes need to be able to consume a bit more energy and have electricity, because without electricity, poverty is complete. They do not have education, they do not have small industries that can be done at home, nothing. So we do need that. But we can also look at the amount of conspicuous consumption that's going on in Colombo, and the rich people and the powerful people, they could look at whether they really need the vehicles that they're running. Whether, if you look at the gas guzzling machines that are running around Colombo, maybe they can all learn to downgrade their transport to something more sensible. We could also look at whether, if we invested more on better quality road surfaces in the metropolitan capital of Colombo, whether there'll be some energy saving from the smoother road surfaces. I mean, there are lots of interesting things to look at, how and building cities and towns as we urbanize Sri Lanka in a way that is more sustainable, so that we